Hey, good morning, everybody. I am AKA Heather Joy, and you boarded the lifeboat. Glad to see everybody here. Oh, goodness. I'm a little tired. I'm not a morning person, guys. But I'm kind of excited about this topic. It's a very selfish one for me because this is something I'm still trying to work out. Forgiveness. That's a hard one, especially when someone that one of your parents, someone who is supposed to love you and take good care of you, teach you good things, when you're a kid and things happen, yeah, they stick with you and it's a struggle trying to work through it all. Yeah. But as addicts, the addiction is really just a symptom of something very deep, something that you're masking. Um, and if you think that there's really no reason that you got addicted, that there was nothing behind it, nothing that you were trying to hide from or trying to soothe, there's the good possibility that it's been repressed and you just can't remember. There's good possibility of that, because most of us, have many reasons why we chose to um, medicate our feelings, didn't want to feel them. And, growing up, boy, my, fa- boy, I was the oldest of four. And my father was at first was a farmer and a contractor with his dad when he and my mother first got married, and he had actually met her in Australia, and she came here, and I honestly think that more than anything she agreed to marry him and come over here to the States to get away from her dad. um, there's a lot of dark things that happened to her growing up, and it really affected her, really, affected her up here. And so when she got to the States and started to have children, and life over here was a lot harder for her than she anticipated, she really struggled. And she was already, quite unbalanced up here, and she didn't handle stress very well. And um, we're poor farmers. I live just maybe 12 miles south of the farm where I grew up. um, but she had a hard time, to say the least. And the older I got, the worse things seemed to become with between her and my father, and financially too. Things were just really, really rotten. Had a lot of bad luck, and yeah, it was a struggle. And so, I grew up with my parents screaming at each other all the time, and it was always my mother that instigated it. And I'm a really, really sensitive person, and I always have been. And I could just feel when there was tension in the room. I didn't have to see anybody fighting or hear anything. I mean, I could always just feel it, even from the time I was just very little. And my parents, I'm raised LDS, and my parents always taught me, what was right and what was wrong. And I knew it was very wrong for my parents to be screaming at each other, and for my mother to be saying such horrible things to my dad. And I remember, while I was still really, really young, I was probably 2 or 3, but I'll never forget the first time I saw them really fight, and I knew it was wrong. They taught me it was wrong, that contention is of the devil, and it's just it's not right. You don't say cruel things to one another. You don't tear each other down. And I'll never forget. I yelled at them, and I was just little. Honestly, I was 2 or 3, but I remember yelling at them and telling them that God did not like this, and this was not making him happy, and I wasn't happy. And I was really little, and the older I got, the more afraid of my mother in particular I became, because of her reactions. And so I never did that again. But I'll never forget that first time when I was little, really before I was old enough to know better, But yeah, I didn't do any good, and it affected me deeply. And the older I got, and the longer they got into their marriage and everything, is going. Misha, stop it! Sorry, he about knocked over my ring light. Anyway, anyway, like I said, my mother was just very, very frustrated and stressed and wasn't happy. And she'd take that out on everybody around her, but in particular my father. And later on, he started driving a truck, and so he was gone a lot. And I remember he would come home, after being gone for a week, and he just want to spend time with the family. And she would just start in on him, and she'd just yell and scream, and she'd just say the most horrible, wicked things to him. And just tear him down. And he just took it. He just put up with it. And this went on year after year after year, day after day, week after week. And oh, it just ate at me. And he kind of, he really got a lot of the abuse from her. But the older I got, the more she really started to take things out on me as well. It wasn't physical, it was all emotional, mental. It was mind games, and just her saying really horrible things to me that just to this day they still ache, they still hurt. And uh, I was so angry with her all the time. I remember at one point, I think when I was 14, thinking, just Dad, just leave her, please, just leave her. I'll go with you. I couldn't, I hated being at home. It was miserable. It was it messed me up. It really messed me up, and I know it messed my father up too. The last few years before he passed away, he was very depressed. And he passed away when I was 17. He had cancer, and mm, it was just after he was gone, um, everything got even worse, between my mother and I. And oh, I couldn't wait to graduate from high school and just get the heck out of here. And I did too. I didn't wait for summer, after graduation to start school. I took off. I started summer school, up in Idaho, right away, just to get away. And this, naive me way back then, I'm thinking that, just getting away from her, I'd be okay. Oh boy, was I wrong. But there was a lot of things that were behind my addiction. But to this, the accident that I was in and all the PTSD I used to have from that, I've been able to work through all of that and get past that. But I'm 52, and I am still struggling with the things that I saw go on in the home I grew up in, and the things that she did to my father and to me. It was not fun, and I'm still trying to sort it all out. Um, but I have I learned what happened to my mother, and why she behaved that way. And I'm not going to say here for the whole world to hear. But now that I'm an adult, and I'm a mother, and I'm a grandmother, I've had time to think about what it must have been like for her going through what she went through with her father. And I mean, just all of the things that happened to her, no wonder she was a mess. And I've always known that, but I know it a lot better now, like I said, just because I'm a mother and a grandmother and everything. Now I understand things a lot better. And I love my mother. I mean, she's my mother. And there were times when there was no one else there for me, that she would be there for me, which really surprised me, because there are times that we wouldn't speak for months and months and months at a time. um but I always wanted to forgive her, um because I knew what she'd been through, and I knew the reasons behind her behavior. I did. I've always wanted to forgive her for everything. And I started on this forgiveness thing and trying to forgive her. Good grief. Ever since I left home, you know, um, which would have been in 1989, I've been trying, and I'm still not there, and it bothers me. It really bothers me, which, but I think that just tells me that I still have some more work to do here, with this. I'm not sure. It's something I'm going to have to definitely bring up with my with my counselor, my therapist, whatever, um, because it's still eating at me, and I still find myself at times not hating her anymore, but I did. I used to hate her. Oh, just a hater for everything. Um, yeah, I'm still working on this forgiveness thing. And I know that there are still a lot of issues from my childhood that I haven't worked out, and I've got to, because they eat at you. They cause me a lot of anxiety and depression at times. Um, but I'll never forget. I was talking to somebody about it one time, and I was telling my friend how I'd been praying and praying and praying, and I'd been praying since 1989 that I could forgive her, and that the Lord would change my heart. And sometimes I believe sometimes that's what it takes to actually truly forgive somebody, is God needs to change your heart. I've been praying for that, and I'm still not there. But and so anyway, but I was telling a friend about how frustrated I was, because I didn't seem to be getting anywhere. I told her, I said, I'm holding a grudge against the woman that gave me life. And what good is a grudge? It's just destroying me. That grudge is not hurting her at all. And it's not going to change anything that's happened in the past. It's silly to hold a grudge. I don't want to. I want to let go of all of this. I really do. Um, I don't know if any of you have heard of a woman named Ava Kaur. She is a remarkable lady, and years ago, probably 5 years ago, just happened to find her story on YouTube, and I found it. The version that I watched was a long documentary type of show. But this woman, boy, and I don't know if I should even say the word. Um, Maybe I'll just okay. She was a Holocaust survivor. I'm sure you can figure that one out. Um, in 1944, um, her family was arrested, and they were uh, put on those cattle cars and sent to Poland, to Auschwitz. And she really, in the long version, the one that I first saw those years ago, she described the whole journey and what it was like riding in these cattle cars. And she said that everyone was just crammed in there to where you couldn't really even sit down. There was just a bucket to take care of your personal needs. There's no food and no water. And I don't know, I don't remember how many days it was that her family, had to ride. I don't know how long it took to get to Poland, to Auschwitz, but when they arrived there and they were on this platform, that's when the guards would start to look everybody over that had arrived and decide, who they were going to keep, who they were going to kill, and who they were going to use for experiments. And this lady Ava, when this had happened to her, she was 10 years old, and she had an identical twin sister. So her name was Miriam. And this was at the time when Dr. Josef Mengele was, the angel of death, I think is what they called him, was there at that camp, and at that concentration camp. And he really loved, anytime he could get a hold of twins, he loved that. He loved to do all kinds of just horrible experiments on twins, and he'd do something to the one twin and then watch how they both reacted. A lot of the time it was just the things he did, it was just horrible. Ugh, cats. But these poor little girls, these 10-year-old girls, of course they were chosen. And the first night that they spent, they sent them off to the hospital kind of end of things. But again, she was describing what her first night was like, and she described how they were pulled from their mother, and they never saw their mother again. That was the last time they saw her, when they were pulled from her. But she describes the first night she spent there. There was a latrine on the one end, and it was just like basically just a big sick room. I don't think there were beds or anything. You just had to lay on the floor. But there, she was describing the 3 dead bodies, little girls that were laying there as well. And it was just, it was absolutely terrifying, for these 10-year-old little girls. That she had decided that very first night, that Ava, she decided that first night that she was going to do whatever she had to do to keep herself and her sister alive and walk out of there someday. That was her goal, was to survive and to walk out. And I'm just looking at my notes. I don't want to miss anything in this story. Let's see. Okay. So the next day, they were the new twins. They were required to be stripped naked, and they had to sit still for hours while they were poked and prodded and measured and examined. And these are 10-year-old little girls. Must have been, absolutely humiliating and terrifying. I can't even imagine it. But they went through all of that, and then right away they Dr. Mengele started all the injections. He was always giving them injections of something, and then observing to see what happened. And this went on just week after week, and I can't even imagine. But I don't remember what the injection was, but she received an injection at one point, and I don't remember if her sister, I don't think her sister received the same injection, but I don't remember if it was Dr. Mengele, if it was one of the other doctors that was there, but they basically looked at her because they knew what they had given her in the injection, and they said, she's so young, it's such a shame, and told her that she'd basically be gone within 2 weeks, and she was absolutely determined to live regardless, and she didn't want to leave her sister there either, and she knew that if she allowed this, whatever they injected into her body, if she allowed it to kill her, she knew that they would give her sister a lethal injection just so that they could have both bodies to autopsy for comparison. That's one of the reasons why he loved why Mengele loved the twins. Just sick and sad, but she got very, very ill, and at one point she couldn't walk anymore, and she would have to drag herself around on the floor to get a drink, to move herself around. And she said that she was, during that 2 weeks, she was in and out of consciousness, but she was absolutely determined she was going to live. She was not going to die. And that's a remarkable girl, she had that much determination, and she lived. She actually lived. And let me see how many. Did I write down how long they were there? I don't remember. I didn't write it down. But they like I said, they went in there in 1944 and 1945. The camps were liberated. She and her sister really did walk out, and I know it was 9 months after they were liberated, she and her sister made it home, and they went into their home, and they discovered that they were the only ones in the family that had survived, and the only thing that was left of the family besides her sister, she said there were just 3 crumpled photos on the floor in their house, and that was all that was left. And they ended up emigrating here to the United States, or is it emigrating or immigrating? I don't remember which one it is, but they came to the United States, and I think let's see, yeah, okay, because of all of the different experiments and injections, all the things that were done to these girls while they were under the care of Dr. Mengele, her sister had a lot of severe kidney damage, and so in 1987. Ava gave Miriam one of her kidneys, and her sister continued to live until 1993, and then her body just couldn't go any longer. There'd just been too much damage, and Ava was absolutely devastated. I wrote down. I had to write a little bit and pause the video and write a little bit more and pause, but I wrote down what she said. I want to read it to you. She just said, "I was angry." Oh, wait, where did else? Okay. Did I? Where did I write that down? Okay, grief, guys. I apologize. I thought I wrote it. Anyway, I guess it's some anyway. She was very, very angry. She was just devastated, losing her sister. That was all of her family. And she knew that she needed it was just eating her up. She knew she needed to do something, and so she really started doing a lot of self-reflection and a lot of inner work. And it's this lady, she's just remarkable. You won't believe what she decided to do. She knew that she needed to heal from all this trauma. And she actually reached out. She found one of the Nazi doctors that uh, had been at Auschwitz, but he hadn't been put to death or been imprisoned from the Nuremberg trials, if I remember correctly, just because he was a bacteriologist. So he was just, he was just working in a lab. Um, I do know now that I think about it, the other job that the doctor that she reached out to, he was a bacteriologist, like I said, so he was in the lab, but then the other job that he had was to go out to the gas chambers, and once, every time they would do, they would gas people. Once everyone had passed, his job was to go and count and sign a death certificate. And it was crazy. It never even had their names on it. It just had the number of people that died, the date, and his signature. And now those are the things that he did while he was there. And and I don't know how she even tracked him down, but she did. And his name was Dr. Hans Munch. And she went to Germany to meet with him. And the closer she got, the more nervous she got. And let's see, she said that when she got to his home, she was blown away because he greeted her with kindness. I mean, this was a Nazi. She's a Jew. And she said that he greeted her with kindness, respect, and consideration. He invited her into his home, and the documentary that I was watching, it showed all of this. Like, the cameras went with her to meet him. It was absolutely incredible. And I bet he was just as terrified. She probably, she had known, probably had nothing to worry about, but she was absolutely terrified. And anyway, she sat down with this Dr. Munch, and they talked. I mean, they talked for a very long time. And she talked about everything that she remembered that she had seen there, that what she had gone through. Just they sat and talked, and he started to open up a little bit, and he started to share with her. And he was talking about how he had to go and sign those death certificates. And he told her, he said, this is my problem. This is a nightmare I live with. He wanted her to understand that this had all had a huge effect on him as well. But he knew, as a Nazi, where he stood with her. And he was very considerate and very nice, and he didn't push it that that he had been suffering as well. But it was crazy. She actually asked him to go with her to Auschwitz, and he did. And this was all a documentary. He went with her. It blew my mind. And it turned out to be such a healing experience for both of them. And it did so much for her, and she wasn't even sure why, but it was something so healing for her. So when she got back to the States, she started thinking about it, and she realized, am I going crazy? I want to thank a Nazi. She wanted to tell Dr. Munch, thank you. She wanted to do something meaningful, but she couldn't fathom of anything. What do I do here? And it took her 10 months. And then she decided what to do. You know what she did? She wrote him a letter of forgiveness. You know, and I'm sure all of you have heard, you know, all of the atrocities, or at least some of the atrocities that went on in the concentration camps, especially the ones, with the gas chambers and the crematoriums. I can't even imagine. If there's anyone who has reason to not forgive, I would think it would be somebody who had gone through something like that. you know but that was what she chose to do. um she wanted it to be a meaningful gift for him, um and it was, but it turned out to be absolutely life changing for her. Absolutely life changing. And this is what she said about the power of forgiveness. She said what she realized was that no one can give that power, the power to forgive. Nobody can give that to you, and nobody can take it away from you. That's something that was hers alone, and it was hers to do what she wanted with it. She chose to forgive. That just I to this day still just, what a woman. What an amazing woman. And later on, she continued to challenge herself, and she got to the point where she forgave Dr. Mengele. Now, there were a lot of other people in her community of these survivors who were very, very angry with her. They really turned their backs against her. They really said some horrible things. Said, "How can you ever, you know, forgive them for what they did?" And she said their lives were just completely bitter. They were miserable. They were living in the past. They were bothered by all of the memories, and there were so many things that would trigger their PTSD, and they were just angry and bitter and basically miserable. They weren't really living. She said they were just existing because they were just miserable. And she said when she was able to forgive, she said that she felt like there was this tremendous weight that was just lifted off of her. And it gave her so much freedom to enjoy the rest of her life. And she had a long life. She passed away in 2019. But, that her story, and how, if she can forgive what was done to her, what was done to her sister, and her family being murdered, if they can forgive, if she can do that, then boy, I can do that. And I need to. I would love to not have a grudge and to not have bad feelings towards my mother. I would love to have that. I would love to be free of that, and to be free of, I know there's a lot more work I still need to do in this area, honestly, because I find myself, yeah, I won't go into it. I just find myself still struggling, and I know I need it. And I think about this lady's story quite often, for that reason. Uh, I love it. She said she finally felt free. And, I would like that. I would really like that. And the other thing that I wrote down that she said, oh, this is where I put it. She said, "Who decided that I should be sad, angry, feel hopeless and helpless? I refuse it." And I love that. That's how she put it. I refuse it. Let's see. And then, Okay, and then and then it continued. She said here, you can never change what happened in the past. All you can do is change how you react to it. My sister and I were human guinea pigs. My whole family was murdered, but I have the power to forgive, and so do you. And like I said, I wrote all this down. These are her words. I love that. You know, she survived, and then she forgave. You know, she forgave the angel of death. That's incredible. That's incredible. You know, and I know that, for so many of us as addicts, there are some really awful things that have happened to us, and we've been through a lot of pain. And, you know, usually, in my experience, most of the time, these kinds of things that happen, when you're a child that cause so much trauma and so much damage come from the very people who should be loving us and protecting us. You know, that's I think one of the reasons why forgiveness can be so difficult. But if you can work through whatever issues you have that are going on and be able to forgive, whomever is behind that, it really is healing, really healing. And, how much better, how much easier is it going to be to remain sober or to get sober if you don't have all this emotional baggage dragging you down and causing you issues. Um, and forgiveness, I know it's not natural to anybody. It's not a natural thing, you know. Um, when especially when we're children, if somebody hurts us, yeah, we want justice. If there's something going on that's not fair, we want it fair. It's not anything that comes here automatically. And I looked up, just to get a quick definition of what it is to forgive. And, just the simple definition would be to stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. Okay, that's a really simple way of describing what it is to forgive, you know. But why is it so hard? What makes it so hard? I you're the one that's injured, and yet I'm asking, or you're the one injured, and yet I'm asking you to forgive. That's that sounds a little crazy, doesn't it, almost. And there are some things that have happened to people that might seem like they're unforgivable. And I even made a list, um, of things, things like, child molestation, adultery, murder, abortion, rape, divorce, abandonment, physical abuse by a spouse or a parent, any kind of betrayal. There's so many things. That's just I was just trying to think in things that to me would be really difficult to forgive. Um, Sorry, I can't read my own writing here on my notes. Good grief. Oh boy. Anyway, there it might seem like whatever it is that happened to you that has caused you such deep trauma, it might, seem like whatever it is that occurred, it is unforgivable. Not just for maybe what happened, but who was behind it as well. Um, but the truth is, you can forgive anything. if you have the desire to do so, you know. But it's not easy. It is it's usually something out of the ordinary, that occurs, um, that shake. Let's see. I wrote down here. It shakes our moral foundations to their core. It goes against some very strongly held core beliefs. Okay, usually, and it is done by someone trusted and or loved. So that's why it is so difficult. And then I wrote down here too, forgiveness always involves the moral side of life. It involves our sense of right and wrong, of fairness and of justice. It also involves our sense of love, compassion, and mercy. When someone violates with a seemingly unforgivable act, at least some of these values have been violated. That's what's going on. That's causing you, to not want to forgive. It makes forgiveness difficult. And a lot of times, when you're trying to deal with the aftermath of trauma, you still in your head, you still got that one sentence going that I just hate, why did this happen to me? I've asked I've quit asking that question, in the last probably decade, but I used to ask it a lot, why? Um, and you question that really at the core of your being. How could this happen to me? Um, and okay, there is an alternative now, to forgiving someone, and that would be revenge. And I want to talk about this for a minute. This would be like, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth kind of thing, rather than turn the other cheek. And I found this the other night, and it said, "He who seeks for revenge should dig two graves," and that's a Chinese proverb. And I've got something I wanted to read to you that kind of helps explain this. Let's see. Okay. This is about revenge. Okay. And this is out of a book called Forgiving What You'll Never Forget. And it's by Dr. David Stoop. And under revenge here, this is what he said. He said, "I was struck by the closing scenes of the movie Dead Man Walking. The parents of one of the murdered victims were convinced that the murderer's execution would somehow release them from their pain and suffering. But the murderer's pain and suffering was in no way similar to their own. And retribution, no matter how just, did not provide any sense of satisfaction." Think about that for a minute. And, honestly, revenge, it says here, revenge, no matter how just, can never bring satisfaction, for it can never replace what has been destroyed. That's true. Sad, but true, you know. Um, but revenge is kind of an automatic feeling at first when somebody crosses you, especially if it's something, very deep and long lasting, something traumatic. And you get very angry. And I just want to say, that the anger that you get, that pushes you to want to have revenge, that anger isn't necessarily bad. You're going to feel that it's natural to be angry. That's not bad. However, if you hold that anger in and it becomes bitterness, that anger and that bitterness, those can completely destroy you. And if you are trying to get revenge on somebody, you're trying to pull them down, all of that bitterness and angerness is pushing you to do that. It's doing the same thing to you. It's tearing you down. And that's why I like that Chinese proverb about, just digging two graves. But, and I know with me too, anger, I struggle with that. I don't like being angry, and I don't know how to handle anger when I'm angry. It usually comes out in a lot of tears. And if there's something going on in my life that is making me very angry, and it's unresolved, I can't find a solution to it. For me, it turns into depression, and it can, it can really throw me, really throw me. So it's revenge really isn't going to help you heal, isn't going to help you in your sobriety, and it's not, like I said, it's not going to make up for what happened to you. It won't replace whatever you've lost. It just won't. It really will just keep you miserable. There really, in my opinion, there's no alternative. If you want to be sober, you need to forgive whomever it was that caused you trauma in your past. Revenge really is a dead end. Let's see, to read something else to you if I can find it. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, let me give you a better definition of what it is to forgive. Let's see, to forgive in the English language, an extended, expanded, strengthened form of the verb to give. By intensifying the verb, we speak of giving it at its deepest level, of self-giving, of giving forth and giving up deeply held parts of the self. We give up the right to revenge, to perfection, to justice, and instead we give forth to ourselves or to the other person freedom from the past and an openness toward the future. Forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves and others. And definitely. And then I've got I got another definition here of forgiveness from Webster's, and it's to grant pardon or remission for an offense or sin, or it's to cancel or remit, like a debt or an obligation, or to forgive the interest on a loan. Another one is to grant a pardon, or the fourth would be to cease to feel resentment against. Okay. See, I still resent my mom, so I know I'm not there, But anyway, to forgive one's enemies, and another one is to pardon an offense or an offender. That's, yeah, those sorry, I've just got all these thoughts going through my head about things I can work on personally. I apologize. Anyway, I like those definitions. I just want to go over quickly some of the myths and the truths about forgiveness. Let's see. Okay, the first one. Okay, when forgiving, I should always try to forgive and forget. Okay, is that true or false? It's actually false, because you know what? Try as you may, you simply don't forget, and I think for me personally, as far as I had to learn how to like myself again before I could ever forgive myself for the things that I did while I was in active addiction. Oh, not fun. But I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget the things that I did because I never want to hurt people like that again. And I don't want to hurt myself like that again. Um, so yeah, you're not going to forget. The second one would be it's good to get angry when trying to forgive. And actually, that's true. Being angry is a necessary part of the forgiveness process. It's something that you have to experience. You have to feel your feelings. Um, and you've got to grieve about whatever it was that was lost. Um, Grieving begins with denial. Okay, you know that when you are grieving, what is it? Yeah, the process you go through when you're grieving. I can't think, but the first one is always denial, and the last one is always the acceptance part. Okay, and that grieving always begins with denial and ends with acceptance. But like I said, you've got to go through the grieving. You've got to feel the anger. It's not wrong. It's a natural response to something that bad that has happened to you. Let's see. And anyway, in order to process your grief, you have to experience the anger and the sadness. And you get stuck in the process if you don't, experience that grief, that sadness, that it's part of the grieving. Um, let's see, number 3 I've got here. Um, I should give up all hard feelings against the person I forgive. Let me say that again. I should give up all the hard feelings against the person I forgive. Okay. Now, that's actually true, but it doesn't mean that those feelings won't return at times. You know, sometimes a person will, the person that has harmed you, that has hurt you, they'll do that behavior again, and you'll see that, and it will trigger, just a rush of all of those feelings again. They do return at times. Um, it doesn't mean it doesn't necessarily mean that you haven't forgiven that person. What that means is that you're now working at a deeper level, and it just indicates that there is more work for you to do. If you've been able to forgive someone, and then you feel those feelings again, yeah, that's natural. But like I said, it just means that you're getting down to the core issues. So in a way, it's a good thing. Um, let's see, what have I written here? You need to let's see, never mind. Okay, the fourth one I've written down. I should try to forgive others quickly and completely. Okay, now that one is false. Because true forgiveness is an internal process of healing. It's something you can't rush. It's nothing you can just like that, especially traumatic things, things that damage you. It's a process. It's going to take time. The fifth one, over time, my hurt will go away and my forgiveness of the other person will take care of itself. Yeah, that one's false. Forgiveness doesn't just happen. And have you heard that one? Time heals all wounds? Because, if you don't address your issues, those wounds, they don't go anywhere. Time doesn't just heal them, you know. And let's see, number 6, if I've if I've forgiven, I will never have feelings of hatred against those who have hurt me. Okay, that's false, you know. When you've been hurt deeply, you know that you're going to feel hatred towards the person that harmed you. Um, the trick is to not remain in that emotion. That could be definitely problematic. Number 7, if I forgive, oh wait, did I? Oh, okay. If I forgive, I am in some way saying that what happened to me didn't matter. You know, that's completely false. You know, that's completely false. You know, it might, although it might seem to forgive, might seem like you're condoning, you know, whatever the hurtful act was that happened to you. Um, that's not what you're not condoning the evil, you know. You're you're simply trying to free yourself, really. Let's see. Okay, something else I wanted to read here, guys. Okay, let me find it here really quick. Um, oh, forgiving other people does not in any way benefit or let them off the hook. It allows us to cancel the debt they owe us, which in all probability they can never repay anyway. We are the ones who are freed from the expectation of restitution for the wrongs done to us. I really like that. I like that way of looking at it. Let's see. Okay, number 8, forgiveness is basically a one-time decision. Either I forgive or I don't. And that's mostly false. Forgiveness is both a decision and a process. Um, and I found this rule of thumb in one of my what was it? My I don't remember. And it was one of my psychology textbooks. Um, anyway, the earlier the injury, okay, the earlier the injury that occurred to you, the earlier it took place in your life, the deeper the injury is going to be, and the more time required to work through it. Okay, that's just a good rule of thumb there. And I'll tell you, for me, it's definitely true. Definitely true. Um, let's see, number 9, I can't forgive until the person who hurt me repents. Um, that's not good to think that way at all. I mean, that's false. You know, waiting on someone else so that you can heal, you may never get that acknowledgement from the other person that they did you dirty, you know. That's going to hold you back, you know. Let's see, in 10, I should forgive even if the person who hurt me does not repent. And you know, that's true, you know. If your forgiveness is dependent on another person's willingness, you know, to try to make up for what they did, um, you're just keeping yourself in the victim position. You know, think about that. And the other person holds all the power in that case. So, you know, it's just a good idea. Let's see here. Um, I liked this statement right here. Forgiveness is no sweet platonic ideal to be dispensed to the world like perfume sprayed from a fragrance bottle. It's achingly difficult. And it is, guys. You all know it is. I like that. Achingly difficult. Yeah, that is true. You know, you have to do a lot of, oh, what do they call it? I called it, heard it called before. I can't think of the term, but it's a lot of uh, self-reflection, a lot of meditation, a lot of prayer, a lot of writing, a lot of, I mean, it's a process. And, I've had to work through so many things with a counselor, and I'm so grateful for them. They really, have helped me get to a point where, I still have things I need to deal with, but I'm happy, so it's a good thing. Anyway, um, forgiving ourselves, I think, is the most difficult thing, when it comes to forgiveness, of forgiving anybody. Forgiving yourself, honestly, is the hardest. And as addicts, especially when you are just trying to get sober, or you're newly sober, you're not happy with the person that you have become. You aren't happy with the choices that you've made or the things that you've done. You've done some damage. Um, you don't, you're not happy with yourself. You don't like yourself. You don't have very good self-esteem at this time. And again, but you've got to forgive yourself just as much as you need to forgive anybody else, because you're trapping yourself. uh, if you aren't working on these things, and you're not learning how to forgive yourself. um, the sad thing about trying to forgive yourself is that if you are experiencing anxiety and depression, it really gets in the way of trying to forgive yourself. That makes it quite difficult. Forgiving yourself, it requires you to walk basically the same path that you walk when you're forgiving another person. You really have to be easy on yourself, and remind yourself that a lot of the things that you did, it was your addiction that was in control, and you need to remember that. you know um yeah. And just the same, it's the same process of forgiving other people. To forgive yourself, you have to grieve. You have to be angry with yourself. um, you need to experience sadness over all the hurt that you've caused other people. Those are important steps to take. Those are important. It's an important process that you have to go through, but it can be done. It really can. I used to detest myself, and it's taken a very long time. And I like, for the most part, I like the person that I've become. I definitely have things I still need to work on, but it's possible. It really is possible to get to a point where you can forgive yourself. And it is really necessary, um, to be happy. It really is. Let's see what time. Oh, good grief. I've taken up the whole hour. Anyway, guys, uh, I think that's all I wanted to share on this subject today. It was kind of all I could come up with. Um, but it is something I definitely still need to work on, because I still find myself at times very angry with my mother. Uh, but the nice thing is there are other people that I have been able to forgive, um, with things that happened that contributed to the reasons behind my addiction. Um, but you can, I promise you, you can heal from these things. You can heal from the trauma, and you can get to where you can be stable, and and you can maintain that sobriety. Uh, it is work, but I'll tell you, it's worth it. It really is. And let's see. I'm gonna just say hi to everybody. We've got JT, Hobotographer, cultivate kindness, full of hope. John Doe, monk searcher. Let's see who. Charlie, Dennis Brace. Um, who else is here? I just want to say hello to everybody. Boy, I'm having to roll this back. Um, okay, if I'm wait, wait. Oh, Rick. Hello, Rick. Almost missed you. Oh, we got Tanya D. And let's see. Scooby. Hello, Scooby. Okay. Did I say John Doe? Anyway, okay. If I missed anybody, I apologize. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope you guys all can have a really good day. Thank you for tuning in and putting up with me. And I love you guys. You know, it's crazy. I never met good grief. The only one I've met face to face has been Tommy. But I have a very deep love for you guys, all the people in chat, and you know the crew. You guys are amazing. I was blown away the first time I watched the lifeboat. I was just so impressed. Couldn't figure out there. I just knew there was something really different about the boat. Couldn't put my finger on it. And you know what? It's many things. I've decided it's many things that make the lifeboat something really special. But I'm so grateful that I have found you guys, and I love coming on and talking to you. It's so therapeutic for me. I know Tommy says the same thing. It's incredibly therapeutic for me, and it keeps me where keeps me more where I need to be. You know. Uh, anyway, I hope you guys have a great day, and you know I pray for you guys. I do every day, morning and night, and hang in there, guys. You got this. I will see you again really soon.